All right, if you're watching this video, you should be at line 131 or thereabouts. So let's do a comprehension check. One, where is Poseidon right now that he can't object to Athena, who wants to free Odysseus? He is in Ethiopia. He's away, and people are making sacrifices to him and praising him. And so while he's away, Athena's like, great, he can't object to me going to Zeus and asking for Odysseus to be freed. And yes, Zeus does agree. He likes Odysseus. He wants to help. So Athena says, why don't you send Hermes to go to Ogygia to free Odysseus? And Athena says that she's going to go down to Ithaca. She wants to talk to Telemachus, Odysseus' son. Okay. So now there's two things you need to know about this part of the story. One, there are a bunch of suitors in the palace. Now, a suitor is somebody who goes to a woman who wants to get married and tries to woo her. They like read her poetry and they bring her gifts and they tell her how beautiful she is. That's what a suitor does when he tries to get somebody to marry them. In this situation, Penelope doesn't want any suitors, right? So she is waiting for Odysseus to come home. But from the suitor's perspective, they're thinking, well, this guy, he went away to war, and it's been 10 years since the end of the war. I don't think he's coming home. All the suitors waited 7 years to see if Odysseus would come back. And then they started showing up at Penelope's palace saying, listen, why don't you pick one of us to be your new husband? They don't really love Penelope, right? They want to be the next king of Ithaca. They're thinking, I'll get money and power, I get a palace, it'll be fantastic. Uh, Penelope is still waiting for her husband. So now, 7 years in, they start show. That's when they start showing up. They've been there for 3 years, and there's a lot of them. There's like 70 or 80 of them at this point, and they're living in the palace, and they are eating the food, and they're drinking the wine, and they keep pressuring Penelope to pick one of them. But she wants to wait. She loves her husband. She believes he might still be alive, and so she's holding on to the hope that he's going to come home. Two, there's an idea in Greek society, in Greek culture, called xenia, Xenia. And xenia is the guest host relationship. It's one of the most important beliefs that the ancient Greeks had. And it's this idea that you have to be a really good guest when you're staying with somebody, and you have to be a really good host when you're hosting somebody. And so there are very specific rules. If somebody comes up to someone's house, even if they've never met this person before, the host is supposed to invite them in. So if some random person just comes to your home and says, hey, I'm traveling, I'd like to stay with you, you're supposed to say okay. You're supposed to let them in. You're supposed to feed them. You're supposed to clothe them. You're supposed to get them a bath. You're supposed to ask them questions about who they are and where they're from, and really like make them feel welcome. And you're supposed to give them a gift on their way out. Now, if you're a really poor person, you might only be able to give them like a place to stay on the floor and maybe just like some, soup or something. And your gift might be this really small thing that's not worth much. But if you're rich, the expectation is that you give them a nice place to stay, you give them a really nice gift, you get like, fancy oils for their bath, that sort of thing. So that's what the host is supposed to do. The guest is supposed to be a really good guest. They're supposed to be gracious. They're supposed to be kind. They're supposed to be polite. They're supposed to leave when it's time to leave. They're supposed to not do harm to anybody in the house. And all of these rules of Xenia are enforced by the gods, specifically by Zeus. So if a host doesn't let somebody into their house, Zeus gets mad at them. Okay. And so they're not actually just being polite when they welcome strangers in, they're doing their religious duty. They're being good Greeks and they're protecting themselves from the wrath of the gods. So if a guest were to show up and let's say, stab someone to death uh, when they're staying over at their house, Zeus would come and kill that person. That's the belief, that he would strike them down. So pay attention in this story to who's being a good guest and who's being a good host, because that's going to show you who the gods will love and favor and who the gods will come and get revenge for.